clues. If someone has acne, we know that detox pathways are gunked up because you reabsorb toxins when you don't get rid of them. You're not just what you eat, you're what you don't excrete, right? So definitely some good clues. If someone has acne, psoriasis, definitely, all things kind of skin related. Skin is one of our primary detox organs. So sometimes it can show up in that way for people.
Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. Hey friend, welcome back to another episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck, of course, always here with you every week. And I want to preface today's episode by saying, I think we really talk about this all the time, but most of the time we talk around it, right? So today's guest is just going to hit the nail on the head for us. So let me introduce you. So she earned her master's in science in human nutrition and functional medicine from the University of Western States, her doctorate in chiropractic medicine from the National University of Health Sciences, a Bachelor of Arts from the University of California, Los Angeles. She's an IFM certified practitioner, licensed dietitian nutritionist, a certified nutrition specialist, and has learned from physicians at the forefront of functional medicine, including Dr. Mark Hyman, Dr. Tom O'Brien, and more. Prior to attending graduate school, she established herself as an expert in the fitness industry, earning 7 certifications and founding the first high-intensity personal training facility in Chicago at the age of 25. Today, she's the physician founder of Well Empowered, where she practices data-driven, outcome-oriented functional medicine. She created Well Empowered with one commitment in mind, providing you the foundation of health and vitality that transforms your experience of life and alters what's possible for you. She takes a root cause, natural medicine approach, working one-on-one with groups, and delivers corporate webinars. Her guidance balances science and heart, providing the information, inspiration, and strategies needed to translate information into sustainable and transformative health outcomes. So you see why she and I felt like kindred spirits. So in her spare time, you'll also find her with her husband, Chris, doing yoga, hiking, strength training, traveling, or preparing a beautiful, healthy meal for loved ones. So without further ado, I give you Dr. Jessie Hehmeyer.
Jenn, thank you so much. That was a great intro. I really appreciate the warm welcome to you and your tribe. It's such a treat to be with you today.
Yeah, likewise. I'm so excited for you to be here. I feel like the last time we spoke was like ages ago now. So I'm thrilled to talk again.
Yay. So fun.
Yeah. So, okay, let's start with what our members are getting this week, and then we'll get into your story. Good?
Awesome. You got it.
Okay, great. So members, your recipe this week is for almond and lemon crusted fish with spinach. The recipe recommends cod or halibut. You could certainly do any sort of whitefish or any fish that you like. It is a whole meal, start to finish, in less than 30 minutes. Great for the changing season. Like, I love this one. I can't wait for you to try it because it's probably going to become a weekly variation that you sort of keep in the repertoire. And I'm sending you an article from our friends at Levels Health titled, How Does Weight Gain Actually Work in Our Bodies? I love how they address the topic, and it certainly aligns with our conversation today. So if you want this recipe or this article delivered to your inbox on Friday, be sure you're a member. Go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries. For $10 a month, you get weekly recipes, a monthly article or tool, extra discounts from me and our partners, plus access to quarterly live sessions with me. It's a total deal. When you take advantage of the full offerings, you really save far more than that $10 cost. I say it every time, but it is a no-brainer way to show yourself that your health is a priority. Plus, being a member supports this podcast and this community so that we can continue to do this for you every week, because I would love nothing more. So you go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries, or just click the link in the show notes because that's easier. Once you're there, you'll click support now, enter your email and payment method, click subscribe, and you're all set. You'll get this week's recipe for the almond and lemon crusted fish with spinach and the article, How Does Weight Gain Actually Work in Our Bodies? All right, Dr. Jessie, We walk through a lot of your credentials and sort of the arc of your career in introducing you. But I want to get a little bit deeper as far as like what prompted you to even get into fitness initially and then go from the fitness side into the medical side and then functional medicine.
Yeah, well, great question. So, fitness and health has always been really a big part of my life, right? Growing up, my mom always prioritized family healthy meals. I grew up very active. I was a dancer. When I went to UCLA, I sculpted my coursework around my workout schedule. That should have been like a very good clue right there, right? And about 2 years after graduating and being in LA, I worked as a physical therapy aide, made my way back to Chicago. And that's when I decided to open up this, strength training facility in Chicago. And ultimately, after about 4 years of being the managing partner there, I really got that to elevate my ability to contribute to people, I needed to deepen and expand my understanding of the body. And so from that point, I went to graduate school, got tooled up so that I could start to guide people to triumph in their health as was specific for their body's needs rather than, well, this worked for me, right? Which, is not nothing, right? That is useful, right? But to really be able to take a customized approach and identify barriers, whether it's in the weight realm, which is a huge portion of my work, or in the digestive realm or hormones, skin, all those different things, really being able to understand foundationally the science behind the body such that I could use it to the benefit of others. So I always say straight lines are boring.
Right. I love that. But I think even the phrase you used of like triumph in their health, like I'm a stickler for the words we use. And like that is such a shift for people too, to think of it in that context.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we really are kindred spirits because language is our life, like truly. We could have a whole other conversation about that. But when people have the experience of really, long-term struggles, how many people in the world struggle with their weight for years or decades, and some are just kind of resigned, like feel like there's just no opportunity to get behind this. My hope is, if this sounds familiar to any of your listeners, that you really get like, promise, not true. Promise, promise, promise. You can definitely triumph in this area of your life. But whether it's that or someone who's just kind of dealt with long-term digestive distress or horrible premenstrual symptoms, pain or being debilitated or just crankiness beyond control, whatever it is, those are things that absolutely you can triumph in those areas.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so going on the word and language front, we hear these words like functional nutrition, functional medicine. And like I said in the beginning, I think we talk around it all the time, but maybe everybody is served by like actually understanding what that means.
Yeah.
So, how do you define it?
Yeah. So one of the other ways I say data-driven functional medicine is data-driven natural medicine. Okay. So we'll take that and break it down a little bit. So that last piece of the puzzle tells us that we're going to be using natural remedies to heal the body, right? But in addition to that, the functional medicine world, our approach acknowledges a few things. First of all, it acknowledges that all systems are connected. Guess what? Your skin and your digestive tract are connected. Guess what? Your mood and your digestive tract are connected. And your insulin levels and your hormones are connected, sex hormones, right? Like all these things that traditional quote unquote approach would send you to one specialist for this and another specialist for that, right? So fundamentally speaking, we're taking an approach that acknowledges the interconnectivity of our body. And we're also taking an approach that seeks to identify what's at the source of symptoms and disturbances or conundrums or difficulty losing weight, all those different things. We're trying to understand what is the root cause, and very rarely is it just one thing. More often than not, it's multiple things, and being able to understand the interplay of your microbiome with your magnesium status, with your insulin, with your thyroid function, like being able to understand all those things allows us to be targeted in how we support the body in healing. to step back a second and go to the beginning part of that, like data-driven part, right? That data-driven part, really, quite honestly, it would be better if it said information-driven, but that's a mouthful, right? So really, I say that because we are getting labs, and that's data, right? Numbers, data, we all get that. But also, when I work with someone, I'm getting so much information from the person that no lab can tell me, right? I'm having a 90-minute conversation with someone out of the gate. They are working off of a shared Google document between appointments, giving me information no lab in the world can tell me, right? So really, it's kind of information driven. And that information is comprised of labs, both standard, quote unquote, lab tests, labs that you might get at a traditional physician's office, as well as specialty labs. And those are things that, I'm sure your audience has heard of, things like microbiome assessments and food sensitivities and adrenal assessments, all kinds of fancy things out there that can be really helpful depending on the person. Right. So we're being targeted in that first 90-minute conversation helps us understand what are the missing puzzle pieces. What is the data, the labs? What do we need to get to better understand what's at the source of these symptoms or challenges, such that we can effectively move this person on a healing trajectory?
Yeah. And when you say natural medicine, I could hear somebody going, what does that even mean? Right? Does that mean like herbs and voodoo? Or is that like, like, how do you define natural medicine then?
Yeah. So I would define it as anything that is non-pharmaceutical. So it's not a prescription. It's not even an over-the-counter, like traditional medication. And it's not surgical, right? Nobody's getting surgery from under my hands. And again, I should say there's nothing wrong with those interventions. They're just not the tools that I use, right? I think it's important for people to know what's right when. Those aren't the tools that I use. So it could be something like herbs and nutrients and supplements. It could be something like nutrition. It could be something like lifestyle, which might include cultivating some ways to reduce stress levels or elevate stress resilience, or improve sleep hygiene such that sleep is sufficient quantity and quality, or move distinct from exercise, both good and important, or be with people, like, right, actually socializing, having joyful times together. So those are a lot of different examples, but fundamentally speaking, okay, they're not those things, right? They're not prescription, they're not traditional over-the-counter medicines, and it's not surgery.
Yeah, I love it. And it's so funny. I mean, even talking about the social thing, it's like, oh, wait, you mean isolation for the last however many years was a problem? I know. Sorry, right? I can't.
No, it's so true. I feel like the whole world is waking up to, like, hopefully in a really beautiful way, Jen, like how much we all really need each other. Maybe we can all just be like a little more gentle and kind to each other now.
I hope so. Yes. Lock arms a little bit. But that's actually an interesting thing too. And it brings up another question, because I have a lot of clients who will work with me and their Western medicine physicians, or, work with you, a functional practitioner and a Western medicine practitioner. And they might bring some recommendations to their Western doctor, or they tell the doctor, even if they're not asking the doctor's opinion, they'll tell the doctor what they're doing. And they go, well, that's not real.
Yeah.
Or there isn't research there. Or so what do you say, I guess, both in terms of understanding the two sides of that so that a client or a patient can sort of reconcile that in their heads? Do you have any recommendations for what we might want to say to that physician as the patient?
Well, I mean, fundamentally speaking, one question would be, one very valid question would be is, do you have any research to share with me on that? You said that's not useful or not real. Okay. Do you have any research you can share with me on that? Just another thing to just be aware of is, and this is without any criticism, we all have different tools in our toolkit. Traditional medicine does not have the education on nutrition and supplementation. It's just not in their repertoire, right? I actually have 3 brothers. 2 of them are MDs. One of them, they had a minimum of 20 hours of nutrition education.
That's more than I've heard from a lot.
Oh yeah, I don't know that it was honored. I just know that it was like
Okay.
on the book
Got
somewhere.
it. Okay.
And I do know that one of them, his was an online course, and he asked me if I wanted to take it from him. And I was like, Joe, I have my master's, so I think I'm good. Thanks. I don't need to know that vitamin C causes scurvy. I do know that, and it's pretty uncommon these days. So, but like that's like their education, right? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, not enough vitamin D as a child equals rickets, not enough C equals scurvy. It's like, okay, well, who are you? You know, mostly, fortunately, there's certainly some places where that's relevant, mostly not, though. But that, you know, it's the disease paradigm, which is not wrong. I would think everyone listening to this podcast has benefited from that paradigm in some way, shape, or form over our
Totally.
life, right? So we don't need to demonize it. We just know that we can't get these solutions there. Now, if someone is on medications, I really want them, you know, having a conversation, or if they're going through chemotherapy or radiation, right? Those kind of things. I definitely want to be collaborating to the best of my ability with their physician or pharmacist or whoever I can get on board with. And I really do typically find more and more, like, it's so wonderful to see that people are being more collaborative in their approach, right? People are actually, you know, if they have a concern, they're about a supplement, they're actually speaking to what that concern is in a way that's constructive, and we can look at it together. Oh, is this real or not for this person? So, you know, my wish is that just continues to grow over time. But certainly for the time being, yeah, there will be some physicians that you know, like they just have blinders on, right? It's this paradigm or nothing, right? And I do hope that continues to shift, because it just doesn't really serve anybody.
Yeah. And I see it too, right? There's more and more openness to that side of the conversation, but I love what you talked about and the way you put it in terms of understanding that, like, tools in the toolkit, this isn't part of their toolkit. They never learned it. It doesn't mean those tools don't exist.
Yes, yes. And just similarly, Jen, right? Like I said, no one's coming to me for surgery, right? If someone shows up at your doorstep or mine and they have severe lower right quadrant pain, and you know,
Totally.
you think they have appendicitis, like, go, let's get you to the ER, like now, right now. I am not the person for you. Right now, the work we do can really be helpful in preventing that scenario. But if that scenario is there, like, come on, let's get them to the right person, you know?
Exactly. It reminds me of a story. One of my colleagues, she and her brother were like taking turns taking care of their mom. And the mom fell, and he called her and is like, "What do you have for this?" And she's like, "Don't call me." Like, call the ambulance.
911. Yes, exactly. Oh my gosh, that's great.
But it's cute, right? Like, I
It is.
appreciate
That's
it. That,
fair
like, oh,
dear.
right. So we started to talk about this before too, in terms of this root cause functional approach to weight. And I think it's sort of like 6 degrees, because what we know is that our overall health is very much connected to our metabolic health, and our metabolic health is very much connected to the weight and the food choices and the habits and behaviors.
Absolutely.
So I want to shift into, your approach, because like you said before, we're not doomed. Like, if we feel like we're behind the 8 ball, like, it's all possible, right? And you have your 5 essentials to weight loss. So let's get into that after a quick message from our partner for this episode. Good?
You got it.
All right. So big thanks to The Savvy Elephant for supporting Salad with a Side of Fries in honor of Earth Month, helping you create a happy, healthy home. The Savvy Elephant helps you create a healthy, happy home by guiding you towards natural, organic, and handcrafted home furnishings with exceptional quality others will notice. Home furnishings that are filled with chemicals affect your sleep, allergies, mood, and overall health. So created and curated by interior designers who have done the research for you, the Savvy Elephant guides you to better, healthier choices by providing vetted products that'll make you feel good. Take control of your home and your health. Shop the Savvy Elephant and live better. So we've talked about toxins before here on Salad with a Side of Fries. Many of the goods in your home are contributing significantly to the body's toxic burden. Like, your mattress and the filling in your couch are off-gassing, or the chemicals and dyes added to fabrics. So I love the range of options from the Savvy Elephant. Not only can you find whatever matches your style, but you can feel good and sleep easy knowing that they're clean and contributing to your total well-being. So I tried the Sonari candle the scent is called Fresco. Highly recommend. I will say I'm like sensitive to scents. I love this one. It's 100% organic, made with vegan coconut wax and GMO-free soy wax. They use organic materials for the scents too. So maybe you didn't realize that your candles are sending toxins into your home. Now you do. So you can check out the Sonari candles. Plus, with every candle sold, a donation is made to Breast Cancer Research Center. Isn't that nice? All right. So be a savvy shopper. Go to thesavvyelephant.com. So TheSavvyElephant.com. Select, order, ship to create a happier, healthier you. That's thesavvyelephant.com. Your friends will notice and the planet will thank you. All right. Okay, Dr. Jessie, walk us through the 5 essentials of weight loss. Where do we start?
Okay. Well, the very first one is cultivating an ability to be kind and honest. Kind and honest. And what I mean by that is for most people who struggle in this area of life, right, who struggle to be a weight that has them feel their best so that they can be their best, right? They typically choose between being kind or honest, right? So kind for most people means I'm not going to look, right? I'm not going to look at the scale, or I'm not going to be aware of what I'm fueling my body with or how I'm moving or not, like, those kind of things. And for most people, honest means I'm going to look, but then I'm going to beat myself up when I am anything less than quote unquote perfect, right? So cultivating the ability to be kind and honest is number one on anyone's journey to master weight. Okay. Number two is choosing your no's, like really getting you're always saying no to something, right? Oftentimes people are related to like, oh, I don't want to be a no to the extra glass of wine, or, oh, I feel so deprived not having the chocolate sundae or whatever it is. But you just want to really get present to you're always saying no to something, right? So you're saying no to your intended future, your health, and what it is to be your best, or you're saying no to what I like to call overindulgence, which isn't the same as indulgence. Very different, right? Conversation for another moment. But, really getting that you're always saying no to something. And so being intentional in choosing your no's.
2 things on this are so important, like recognizing that saying yes to the overindulgence
Yes.
is saying no to our own health, to our own confidence, to our own belief that we can do this. Like, it's almost that self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd say self-fulfilling prophecy, right? I wouldn't say that, but I would say saying the yes to the overindulgence, like, right, you are saying no to the outcomes you're committed to and to the future you intend for yourself. You are, if you're doing that, if it's true overindulgence, right? And I would say, for most people, I really think one of the most heartbreaking things of the overindulgence is the sense of self-betrayal that follows.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so, the thing is to really get present to that and to like the real suck of it. And I would imagine you could say the same thing. Like, I know it because I used to do it. Right. So I do really know the suck of self-betrayal in this area of health. And at one point in my life, I was like, no, like this is costing me way too much, right? This is costing me being fully present with the people who I love the most. This is costing me fully contributing in the way that I intend. This is costing me really experiencing fully the joy that is abundant in my life, right? And when I got that, those were all the things I was saying no to by overindulging. I was like, screw that. I'm going to figure this out. And it didn't happen in a day, but it really was drawing a line in the sand and committing to being in that journey of mastery.
I love it because, and like you said, it didn't happen overnight. So there's going to be those moments where we say yes to the other thing and realize we said no to ourselves. You know what I mean? And so it's a process in that. And I think that even also ties back into what you were saying about being kind and being honest.
Bingo. Totally bingo, right? Because you have to be able to look and see, wow, yeah, I was a no to myself, right? I betrayed myself. And you have to be able to see that and not like swallow, pretend that the upset's not there, but also not like take out the whipping post and beat yourself up, right? There's this balance of being able to experience the emotions without, wallowing in them, right? But actually letting them flow so that you can remember, like, I don't want to do that again. What was it that led to that point? I was talking to a woman earlier today in an appointment, and she was saying, really what had me overindulge was that I didn't eat breakfast and I was so starving that when I got there, I lost, like, I was so hungry. I felt like it was just like beyond difficult to make a good choice, right? It's like, okay, great. Well, then let's figure out how this breakfast thing is going to happen for you, right? And for you is different than for someone else, right? Everybody's got a different cadence of life and what they're willing to do in the morning or not. And there is a solution, right? If you're committed, there's a solution.
Yeah, we're like the same person because that's the same conversation I would have to. Like, yeah. It doesn't have to be so hard. Let's just focus on figuring out the breakfast thing, and then the rest of it's going to take care of itself.
Yeah,
because
totally.
It's chemical.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I interrupted.
No
Take us to
worries.
number 3.
Okay, so number 3 is creating what I call your vision of vitality. And another way we could say that is creating your magic wand or creating your intention for your health in your life. And so I'm going to invite your listeners to walk through this exercise right now. And if you're driving, just like rewind and get back to this place when you're not, but really actually do this exercise because it really will meaningfully contribute to mastery in this area. And the first step is you're going to do a little time traveling to the 5-year future. Okay, so 5 years from now, you are fill in the blank old, right? I'm going to be 51. Holy cow. But, 5-year future. And now I'm going to invite you to tell the story of what it is to be you walking around in the world with your health as you intend and desire it be, right? Whatever comes to mind as I say that, right? Or do you start thinking about getting dressed in the morning? Or do you start to think about what it is to be with people at a cocktail party or at your birthday or at the holidays? Or do you think about what becomes possible in the way of creating a family or for the family you already have? What is it that comes to mind for you or just your relationship with yourself, right? So you're going to tell that story in first person present tense, right? I'm 51 and my body is strong, beautiful, resilient. I move about the world with ease and confidence, right? Whatever's true for you, you'll tell that story. And then when you're done with telling that story, you're going to do the 5-year time travel again, but this time I'd like you to do it in a spiral down future. So it's the 5-year future from now, but it's a spiral down future, right? You don't have to go sci-fi in this creation, right? But really think about like, okay, if I don't seize this opportunity to start to shift the trajectory of my health or my relationship with my body or my relationship with food or myself, whatever it is for you, my hormones, what would that 5-year future look like? And you're going to tell that story too. These two stories become the foundation for that next step that I call creating your vision of vitality. And fundamentally speaking, your vision of vitality, just so you all know, it's all based on that first story. It's all about what you're going towards. Okay, so really getting clear on what is your intention for your health in your life, because it's a very different conversation to have with yourself if the conversation is me empowered, connected, thriving versus the deep dish pizza, right? Or 3 pieces of the deep dish pizza, right? Or versus the extra glass of wine, right? That's a very different conversation when it's about empowerment, joy, thriving versus like, oh, this wine's really delicious. Me versus the wine, right? Because that struggle, that over and over again, me versus the wine, wine's going to win. The pizza's going to win. The ice cream's going to win, whatever your kryptonite is. So you really want to get present to what is this really about for you? Because I promise if it were about the scale, you'd already have it handled, right? Like, yes, you want the scale to be a certain number. And yes, you want to wear those jeans. And yes, you want to feel great when you get dressed in the morning. But it's really about, you're maybe onto something when you think about getting dressed in the morning and what it's like. But, you want to get tapped into what becomes available when this area of your life is handled. So that's number 3. Number 4 is automate for excellence, right? So coming up with duplicable strategies that really work for you, solutions that work for you. And this is a lot of different things, right? This is knowing that different environments is going to require different automation systems. Different people you spend time with might require inventing different strategies. And really, one of the things that it's at the source of this is knowing that willpower is a delicate tool and it breaks easily. And there are times where you're going to want to pull that willpower tool out of your toolkit, but you want to use it as infrequently as possible. And also, it's the only tool that everyone thinks, like people who struggle with this area of their life, it's the one they've been told they have. It's the only one they've been told they have. And, it's not your fault, but just know there are many, many other tools. And that's one that breaks easily. So we want to get you tooled up with others. And then the 5th and final essential is to invest in expert guidance, right? You have to know what are effective actions for you and your body, right? There's not one size fits all. And there are different reasons why one person struggles to lose weight than another. And some of that is physiological. Some of that is psychological, some of that is logistical, some of that is social, right? There are a lot of different things we could say about that. But, if you're someone who's struggled in this area of your life for years or decades, invest in expert guidance.
100%. I'm like over here screaming with excitement over everything you're saying because it's so true. And especially with the willpower piece, because I think everybody has been told there's sort of this like social cultural thing of, if you're overweight, it's because you're broken, you have no willpower, there's something wrong in that way. And it's like, it's also so very chemical. Like you were just saying, there are all these other pieces.
100%, 100%. Maybe that person has elevated inflammation. Maybe their microbiome's a hot mess. Maybe they have not even true insulin resistance, but suboptimal insulin sensitivity. Maybe their detox pathways are junked up and so their hormones are all out of whack. Like there are, I could go on and on and on, but you get the picture that it really, bodies are different. They're different for sure. And what one body needs is different than what another body needs.
Yeah. So you just walk through a few of the pieces, like the insulin resistance, the inflammation, detox pathways, and going back to what we talked about before of being data driven or information driven. Are there, or what would you recommend somebody ask for tests or find a physician like you or somebody who can do what tests so that they can better understand the biochemical side of it all?
Yeah, first of all, find someone who knows their stuff, because what I order for one person is different than what I order for another. And when I do order labs for people, I let them know, like, listen, you're going to feel like you're donating blood because we're getting a lot of information. And we act on that information. We don't get it because it's cute, right? It's really actionable information, right? But certainly, some of the essentials, and there will be more for people, but some of the essentials include measuring your inflammation, right? Inflammation is a measurable, knowable phenomenon. A lot of people will say like, oh, I feel inflamed. And I'll say to them, I was just talking to a woman in her mid 30s the other day. Oh, I feel so inflamed. Tell me a little bit more about how that shows up for you. For her, she said that her skin was a little bit itchy and that she had some like abdominal upset. That's how she was experiencing inflammation. For someone else, it might be joint pain. But I have to tell you, or, a million other ways, for most people, they don't have symptoms of inflammation. In other words, inflammation can be smoldering and you not know it. And more often than not, that is true for people who do have elevated inflammation. And when inflammation's elevated, it's like just, imagine you're riding down the street in your bike and someone throws a stick in your spokes. You're like, wow, right? You're like, it just doesn't work. Your metabolism really gets slowed down majorly. when inflammation is elevated. The body goes into caloric conservation, aka fat storage mode. So make sure you know your inflammatory markers. The biggest ones I like to test are HSCRP, high sensitivity C-reactive protein. I'd like to see it under 1.5, and homocysteine. That's oftentimes not thought of as an inflammatory marker, but for me, I really do think of it as an inflammatory marker. So those are two inflammatory markers for sure. Thyroid, but really a comprehensive panel as opposed to just a one point test. Definitely want to do that. Fasting insulin. I've actually recently really started bringing in a new panel that Quest offers called insulin resistance. When it's so interesting, I've had a few people where their fasting insulin is pretty good. Maybe it's not perfect, but it's pretty good, but their insulin resistance score is high. So it's telling me about those receptors. Okay, maybe their production of insulin is okay. Their receptors aren't hearing the message. They're all gunked up. So we got to go after that, right? So that's definitely one, either fasting insulin or even better, insulin resistance via Quest. Yeah, those are some of the things that for sure we want people to have.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. We talked about detox a couple weeks ago, and this one I almost feel like is a little bit harder because, I suppose you could look at liver enzymes, right? But a lot of times the gunked up detox pathways show up in all these other symptoms.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's complicated to assess detoxification. You can do some fancy tests for sure, but understanding what nutrients play a role in detox pathways, that's one way we can get in there. Because if they're depleted, we know by default, those detox pathways are not working well, right? If someone is not getting enough protein, we know detox pathways are not working well. They need amino acids, the building blocks of protein to run, right? If someone is constipated, we know that detox pathways are gunked up because you reabsorb toxins when you don't get rid of them. You're not just what you eat, you're what you don't excrete, right? So definitely some good clues. If someone has acne, psoriasis, definitely, all things kind of skin related. Skin is one of our primary detox organs. So sometimes it can show up in that way for people. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anything else on that front that are some of the big things you tend to see all the time that most people ignore?
Disruptions of the microbiome for sure, right? So, the microbiome, as I'm sure many of your listeners know, right? It's 80% of it is housed in our colon, also known as our large intestines. And most of our microbiome is made up of bacteria, or should be. And for a lot of people, for a lot of different reasons, their microbiome can be a hot mess. And that's going to affect a lot of different things, from energy production to weight loss to mood. And, some people think that, well, gosh, I would definitely have digestive tract symptoms if my microbiome were all a mess. But that's just not true. It's definitely not true. I actually just was reviewing someone's microbiome results with her earlier today. Her digestion's actually pretty darn good. She has a healthy bowel movement daily. Before we started working together, she was bloated. Her bloating's gone. We did a microbiome test for other reasons. And hers was like one of the more disrupted microbiomes I've ever seen, with very little symptoms. So, you just don't know unless you get this information.
Yeah. Test, don't guess, as they say.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So wrapping this up, a final thought or something you would say to the person who feels deficient or defenseless, like they just can't crack the code to their own health.
Yeah, I would say if that sounds like a familiar space for any one of your listeners, like, first of all, keep listening to Jenn. She does great work here. And, secondly, really do sit down and write the story of your 5-year future, like your 5-year intended future for your health and your life. Get very clear about what it looks like and what it would make available for you. And then last but not least, get help, right? Really get help. If you wanted to be an amazing tennis player, you would get help. We call that getting a coach or taking a lesson, right? But fundamentally, you would get help. So same thing in this area. You want to master this area of your life, find someone who you believe you can trust, is well-intentioned and very knowledgeable in this area. And there are a lot of great practitioners out there. Obviously, Jen or I would love to work with you, but there are plenty of wonderful people who do this work out there.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I love it. I know we could keep talking forever, so I'm going to try to put a pin in it. Are you ready for our rapid fire off topic questions?
Oh my gosh, have at it. Let's hear.
All right. The best thing you've done for your health this week, and maybe the naughtiest thing you've done related to your health this week.
Okay. Can they be one and the same?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So we were talking before this show that I work remotely. My husband and I live in Switzerland. And I blocked my schedule on Wednesday and went to Lugano for lunch with a bunch of women. And this was one of the best things because, it takes something to create a community here. We're talking about being with people joyfully. And so it was really, really good. It was a really, really good thing for my health. And then also at lunch, I had a glass of champagne. Which
sounds amazing.
I am not a day drinker. And it was wonderful. It was great.
I love it.
Yeah.
If you weren't a functional medicine practitioner, what would you do?
Oh, that is such a good question. I don't know. Maybe I'd lead hikes. I love hiking. And also I will say when I was in graduate school, I also taught yoga. So I love, teaching yoga brings me so much joy. So maybe I'd teach yoga and lead hikes. Maybe it would be a little bit of
right.
both.
You hike to the spot to do yoga.
Yes. There you go.
Perfect.
Exactly.
Right. Your favorite book on any topic other than your area of expertise, or it could be a fiction book too.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I really, really love reading. And I just got done. I can't answer that question because there's so many favorite books. I will just tell you that. I do love anything by Pema Chodron. I'll give you a few different categories. Okay. So
perfect.
Pema Chodron, she is the first American-born Buddhist nun. And I think she's in her early 80s now. She's amazing. And before she became a Buddhist nun, she was married twice and divorced twice. And she was like, oh my God, I need to figure something out here. So she made her way to becoming a Buddhist nun. And so she's very relatable and brings a lot of humor and wisdom to her conversation. And it works with any religious belief, right? It goes with anything. So I love all things Pema Chodron. I do love historical fiction. I loved All the Light We Cannot See from, that was 10 years ago, but it was so, so good. I had never read Cider House Rules and I just finished it. And it was one of the most beautiful books. I just adored it. And how I ended up reading it was by the book I read before that, which was called Freshwater for Flowers by Valerie Perrin. Beautifully written, really lovely characters and life stories. So those are a few things there. Okay. Now looking at more of action points in life, the nonfiction world. So I do love Gretchen Rubin, right? She wrote a book called Better Than Before that's about habit change. Love that. Atomic Habits by James Clear, Black Box Thinking, helping us see our blind spots, stuff like that. So
awesome.
We could keep talking.
I know. I love it. We're such readers. We really are the same person. Okay. If you could cure one ailment, disease, or sickness, what would it be?
Oh, self-love. Self-aggression.
That's a good one.
Self-aggression. That would be the disease I would cure. Mm-hmm.
If you were a superhero, what would be your superpower?
Flying, for sure. Absolutely. 100%.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
Being poked. I hate being poked.
Physically poked?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, poked. Uh-huh.
Okay. All right. Last one. In your opinion, what's the next frontier in wellness?
I believe more and more people are going to get access to personalized information and an understanding of how to use it, right? And we see this with the continuous glucose monitor, CGMs. I think more and more that is going to happen. And I think it's such a great thing. I think it's super exciting.
Agreed. Well, thank you again for being here. Just truly appreciate everything you shared. Tell everybody how to connect with you, where to learn more, all that good stuff.
Absolutely. So you can find me at wellempowered.com. If anyone's interested in exploring working together, whether it's one-on-one or through an upcoming pilot weight loss group I'm going to be launching shortly, You can schedule a complimentary consultation, 30 minutes, happy to connect with you and answer your questions and explore what it would look like to partner. And then on Instagram at Well Empowered. And just make sure you mention where you heard about Well Empowered, because you will be entitled to 10% off if we move ahead and working together by way of Jenn.
Awesome. All right. So we'll put links to everything in the show notes for you. Dr. Jessie Hehmeyer, thank you again.
Thank you so much, Jenn. It has been such a treat to be with you and share our love of this work and of people really lit up being empowered by their health and vitality.
Absolutely. Awesome. So this brings us to our nutrition nugget. So on Friday, we're talking about pea protein, quickly becoming a very popular option with, all the plant-based protein things coming out. So tune back in on Friday for that. By the way, if you don't want to forget, in whatever app you're listening to, hit the plus sign, the subscribe, whatever the options are in the app. And then that way your app will remind you on Friday, a little podcast listening pro tip for you. Well, as always, everybody, I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or really all social media. I'm at Jenn Trepeck, JENNTREPECK. This is your personal invitation. Send me a message. I want to hear from you. Or if website's easier, it's asaladwithasideoffries.com. These are easy places to learn more about working with me as your health coach. Also, Dr. Jessie Hehmeyer, thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much, Jenn. It has been such a treat and so much fun.
Absolutely. We'll have to do it again.
Definitely.
All right. So friends, if you're not already a member, you can join our membership program by going to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries to support this podcast and this community. But most importantly, support your health. You'll get this week's recipe for the almond and lemon crusted fish with spinach and the article from our friends at Levels called How Does Weight Gain Actually Work in Our Bodies? So until next week, remember, even with weight management, we can use the tools and the perspective of functional medicine to find the root cause and truly heal. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.